There's a move underway in Oregon that would, if successful, move the state line, making a large chunk of Oregon part of Idaho. And if you think that's far-fetched, Lee Cowan invites you to think again.
This is 1863.
Mike McCarter. He knows his American history
Well, guys, let's go ahead and get started here.
almost as well as he knows his Bible.
Dear Father, we just thank you for this time.
His family has lived and worshiped here in Oregon for 4 generations.
The only time I lived out of the state was during the Vietnam War when I was in the military.
But his Oregon might not be the Oregon you're thinking of. The one with the misty, rugged coastline, Pinot Noir wineries, and its loyally blue politics. Nope, this is the red side of Oregon, the rural and more sparsely populated part. Mike lives in the town of La Pine.
It's almost like the Grand Canyon goes right along the Cascade Range.
It's that big a divide.
It is a big divide.
What that means politically, he says, is the blue part of Western Oregon always outweighs the eastern part's red.
And in talking to a legislator over in the Portland area, I said, the legislature doesn't listen to our people, our representatives over here. He said, whoa, 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 stop, Mike. We hear what they're saying. We just outvote you.
So McCarter decided to look for greener pastures, or in this case, at least one's a little more red.
This would be Oregon, and that across the river would be Idaho.
He's leading a movement called Move Oregon's Border, which seeks to push the blue bits into a smaller but still populous state of Oregon, and then taking all the rural red bits and making them part of a bigger Idaho.
So how much land are we talking, roughly?
About 63% of Oregon's land.
So a big chunk.
Big chunk.
When you have a government that won't listen to the opposition or take into account those of us that live out here, then we have no government representation. This town is about 200.
That's Sandy Gilson. She owns a real estate business in rural John Day, Oregon, which is closer to Boise than it is to Portland in virtually every way.
Is it a political difference? Is it a cultural difference?
It's all of the above.
Yeah.
They won't hear our concerns. They don't understand our lifestyle.
She's been going door to door in support of the Greater Idaho movement, and she says she's found some pretty fertile ground. Of the 11 counties that have put it to a vote, 9 have endorsed it, and it's on the ballot in 2 more counties this November. Some who voted against it worry that it could discourage political discourse. It might even set a dangerous precedent for other states. Others, though, say that moving a state's border seems almost logistically impossible. So, really, what's the point?
Are you optimistic that you've got a chance?
I look at it that the American Revolution was a big hurdle to make, and they did it.
I don't think that we should act like state lines are written in stone. We should look at them and say, does this actually make sense?
Author Richard Kreitner, who wrote a book about secession and division, says it's hardly a new idea.
Secession has always been there. You know, Catholics lived in Maryland, debtors lived in Georgia, Puritans lived in New England. They were kind of separate to begin with, and that's why they wanted nothing to do with one another.
So it's really woven into our DNA.
Absolutely. There's nothing sacred about Oregon. There's nothing sacred about Delaware or my native New Jersey, in my opinion. You know, these are just kind of inherited forms.
All right, who can skip the furthest rock?
You might be asking right about now, instead of going through all the trouble to move the border, why not just move across it?
When you feel like that and you feel like you don't have a voice, you make a decision.
A self-described libertarian, Derek Williams moved his family to Idaho from the suburbs of Portland.
It was extremely difficult to leave family and friends. A lot of tears were shed.
Here in the town of Eagle, Idaho, he says he found other political refugees, a conservative majority, and no discontent or disconnect anymore.
You come here like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that it could be this way, right? And you feel accepted and appreciated for who you are.
We're all sending the same message to Oregon's leadership that you've got a problem in Eastern Oregon.
Mike McCarter knows the concept of majority rule can certainly be messy. What he's worried about, though, is when it teeters on tyranny, he says. That's when something has to be done. And the best people to decide just how, he says, are the voters themselves.
If we get done with this and it doesn't come about the way we want it, at least we did it the right way. So be proud of that.